You fix it. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to be replacing this bathroom faucet and installing this new one. First, you have to shut off the water valves. As you can see, the handle itself is actually missing, but the spindle portion is stripped and corroded, and the valve body itself is soldered onto the pipe. And I do not want to have to go to the extent of replacing the entire valve body. This is the location of the main water supply coming into the house. So I've shut off the main water supply. This is a basement bathroom. So I've opened all the faucets downstairs in the basement as well as upstairs to allow all the water to drain out. If you're in a situation where your old valve handle and everything and the spindle is in good shape, but it just won't turn off the water, the problem is this rubber seal right here is worn or gone. This is the old stripped spindle assembly that I'm going to replace. Now, if your handle and everything is okay, you can replace just this rubber seal. It's available any hardware store, and just put a new seal on there and then reinstall this handle. In my situation, the spindle itself is all stripped. The handle, the T-handle section there was missing. So what I did was I purchased a new valve assembly, but I am not going to use this entire valve body assembly because this end is soldered onto the pipe, and again, I don't want to go to that extent. This threaded section here screws inside. So it screws down like that, all the way in, and once you've got it in, then this nut right here, you can see there's a rubber seal right there. This nut then screws onto the outside of the valve body assembly. You tighten that down, and then this is what allows you to unscrew it. And that way that when you unscrew the spindle all the way out, counterclockwise, it releases that inner rubber seal from closing off your port inside to allow the water to flow through it. And there's the nut. The spindle is still in place. So now, because I have no handle on there, I have to take a vice grip and then unscrew it. And I got a pan down here to catch the water. The spindle assembly is now out. You see how the rubber is missing on this one as well. Be certain that you look down into the valve port to make sure that nothing is in there that shouldn't be in there. And as you can see, the old rubber seal from the valve as well as on the cold water valve. So you just take a small screwdriver, make sure that it's out of there, and you see how it's all crumbled, and that's why it came loose. Make sure you clean any residue, calcium buildup in there. Make sure it's clean so that the new rubber seal will seat okay on there. And we'll do the same on the hot water valve. Just using a brass brush, we're going to clean the threads up on the body just to make sure there's no calcium buildup on the outsides. We're going to put some Teflon tape on there. So you want to wrap this in a clockwise form so that as you're tightening down the nut for the valve, that it is also clockwise. Now I'm going to install the new valve. And again, we have to start these inner threads, have to be screwed in first, and then you are able to screw in this outer nut. Okay, now we're screwed in. You don't need to tighten it. Now I'm screwing in the nut. And then the internet. It's hand tightened. I'm going to tighten it with a wrench. Okay, we need to loosen the water lines up at the faucet itself. I've already loosened with a wrench. So this is the water supply line nut that I just loosened. That's the hot water. And you've got the cold water over on this side. I got the supply line loose. Now I just need to pull it out of the faucet, and then I need to pull this end out of the valve. Okay, next is we have to remove these nuts right here on the cold and hot mounting stems of the old faucet. In order to get those off, I do not have a deep well socket, unfortunately. And I tried other means to get them off, and I can't get a pliers, regular channel lock, or a vice grip or anything in there because of very limited space. So I use these very long needle nose pliers, and I was able to get a hold of it on either side in this fashion and turn that nut. And you want to be careful not to damage the threads below the nut, because otherwise the nut will not come all the way off, and it has to come all the way off in order to take the faucet out. So be careful about that. And I just wanted to share with you, this is another great deal that I just picked up from Harbor Freight actually yesterday. And by the grace of God, if I had not gotten them, I would have been stuck on this job, because I just happened to see them for $10 for the set. They're unbelievable. These things are like a foot long and very precision made. You know, they're very nice. So just to share with you, great deals out there. Harbor Freight. Faucet out, and I got it cleaned up. This faucet here is the original faucet in the house, more than likely, and this house was built probably early 70s. And look at that, made in the USA. Sure would like to see that again. It has a little bit different mounting. It's got a stud with the nut on there, and once it engages into the holes, the mounting holes in the sink, then these plates slide into position. The nut bears down on the plate, and that's what locks it into place. And then you've got your supply lines that go through the same holes right here on either side. The center hole is for your sink, the stopper, which this one doesn't have it, so we're not going to utilize that. And we sneak it into the holes right there, and then the studs go in, and you got a nice little fit there. Okay, now we're hooking up the supply lines. This is because this is a very tight 18-inch cabinet, and because the new faucet has a fixed copper line, it comes right down to the supply line that's in the wall. And in order to make this work, I have the flexible supply line. It's a cold line, and see where it comes off the brass fixed line and does a loop-de-loop and comes back down onto the supply line from the house. Now I have everything loose, the faucet, the lines. I did put all Teflon tape on all the fittings, as you can see, and I've got, again, everything loose until I get everything hooked up, and then once it's hooked up, I'm going to tighten everything down at that time. The supply line that's right behind there, behind the brass supply line that goes to the faucet, and it is, as you can see, again, very, very tight quarters. So what I'm doing is using my brand new elongated needle nose, 90 degrees needle nose pliers to grab onto that fitting end and to tighten that up. Just wanted to show you that for another alternative in case anybody runs into the same type of issue. This Just remember to go to Harbor Freight and get your 90-degree elongated needle nose pliers. They come in handy in tight places. Okay, and I've got the other end of the supply lines tightened. And next step is I'm going to tighten the mounting bolts, faucet itself at the bottom of the sink. And I've got a long extension deep well socket, and I'm going to tighten that down now. Okay, I got both the mounts tightened up. Next is we put the valve stems in. Ready for the final test. I'm going to turn on the main water and check it out. Looks like so far no leaks. Our final test of the water, and we've got water working and it shuts off properly. So looks like everything is successful. One other thing to check is the nozzle right underneath here. If your spray pattern is irregular, remove this nozzle and just check to make sure that there's nothing clogging it in any of the holes, the main hole in the center or around the outside perimeter. Otherwise, this concludes another video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped somebody. And please don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.